Hello, you're watching Captains of Industry with me, Godfrey Mutizwa. In this show, we try and profile leading business people. On the program today, we've got Tongai Maramba, and he is the chairman of R-Switch in Rwanda, but he's also the general manager of Tigo Rwanda. Tongai, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Godfrey. It's lovely to be here.
I'm looking at your CV, and I am seeing a young man of 40 next year. And I'm comparing you to myself because I see you appear to be in a sector where you appear to have chosen it. When we were growing up, there was no career guidance. We just ended up with where you ended up in the circumstances that you were in. Is this where you wanted to be even when you were growing up?
Yeah, good question. I guess the answer is no. When I was a boy, what I wanted to do is make robots. I watched Star Wars and I was super impressed by the robots that I saw. And so that's actually what I wanted to do.
What happened?
And in fact, I actually ended up doing a mechanical engineering degree still with that ambition.
Right.
But then I realized that robotics is actually a lot of very hard mathematics and not super exciting. So I decided to try and find something else.
Are you going to go back at some point and try and make robotics?
Well, I still have ambitions as a hobby at home. So you may, if you visit me at home, maybe one day you may find me with my little robot friend. But let's see about that.
Okay. We'll go back maybe another 5 years and then let's check out if that robot will be talking like those Japanese ones that walk and greet people and do all sorts of functions. So you ended up in engineering as a second choice. Was that your choice again, or was that father and mom deciding, hey, young man, we're going to get you into a proper career path. We'll not get into to get you to dabble into these sort of funny things that are unclear to us?
Well, you know, I think I feel very fortunate that I grew up in a home where actually my parents were very supportive of whatever my ambitions turned out to be. So really I ended up in engineering because I think at the base of it all, I'm just intellectually curious, and engineering was a really good fit for me. I really enjoyed the degree, learnt a lot, but you know, as I say, when I came out of that, you know, I found myself moving more and more towards sort of commercially focused roles.
So I'm looking at your CV, as I said, and I see you have been around for a young man of 40. Let me keep emphasizing that point because you were talking about your age earlier on. Now, you have worked both in government and you have worked in the private sector. I just want to understand in terms of job satisfaction, where you found yourself saying, I'm very happy to be waking up today and going to work and coming back home and getting eager again to be up the next morning.
Well, I mean, I think there's two things to that, right? So I would say probably the North Star for me in terms of how I make my choices is really about my, my ability to contribute to development in Africa. And this is a realization I came to relatively recently, I would say. And so, you know, the work that I did in the public sector was really a move to try to understand from policy planning perspective and national strategy perspective, how is it that you think about development as a country? But then I also came to the conclusion that really the place I want to be in terms of impact is in the private sector, in particular in mobile, which was my background, in fact. And so now I'm really exactly where I want to be. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. I have a wonderful and challenging job in which I'm continuously learning. And most importantly, I'm also feeling that I'm able to make a contribution.
Absolutely, and you're making a contribution in a big way in Rwanda because you are general manager of Tigo, as we noted at the top of the show, but you're also chairman of R-Switch, which is the national payment system. I mean, when you look at a developing country like Rwanda, you have to imagine our payment system is one of the big headaches and big challenges, and also, of course, necessarily a big opportunity as well. Chat to us a little bit about that, straddling both the private and public sectors.
Yeah, so you know, the idea is that I think as Tigo, as Telecom, we really have a strong belief in the power of payments, of mobile payments, to transform lives. And you know, my background, even when I joined Tigo, I started out in mobile payments, setting up the Tigo Cash business. We saw a real opportunity to expand what can be done in mobile payments by integrating mobile with the traditional financial services sectors, which would naturally fit into the role that a switch plays. So one of our big ambitions for us, which is to see it become the transactional hub for not just financial and banking transactions, but also for mobile transactions between MNOs and between MNOs and banks. So that's really the big vision I think we have for RSwitch, and I think it's an exciting place to be for RSwitch itself, and also for myself to have been involved in that has been a real privilege.
Yeah, and give us the broad targets in terms of RSwitch. I mean, we all hear about how countries are trying to move away from cash and becoming cashless. I mean, Nigeria has got a big push on that front. We have seen it here in South Africa. And of course, globally, we have seen this trend where your payments are moving onto your digital platform. So our phones are becoming our bank cards, etc.
I mean, I think for us, we have to be a little bit schizophrenic, because on the one hand, we are providing the accounts to customers with our mobile payments business, and then of course with the switch, we're facilitating the transactions. The ambition for RSwitch is very simple. It's to connect all East Africans with all of the electronic money. So that means that, you know, if you're sitting with a wallet, you're sitting with a bank account, you're sitting with any other store of electronic value, it shouldn't be a headache for you to transfer that value from one store of value to another, whether it's a payment, whether it's a transfer, whatever it is. So it's a big ambition, it's bold. But we think it can be very impactful and very important in driving the sort of the cashless economy.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at our situation. I mean, we grew up in a period when to have a bank account, you had a little book in which you wrote transactions. So you went to the bank and they deducted a certain amount of money or added a certain amount of money. And now you're moving these things onto a digital platform. And we're very scared. And I dare say I'm not alone in being scared about the potential that you may lose all this information in this, I feel like, world in which you really can't see. It's intangible. You're believing in systems and technology that you cannot see.
Yes.
How dangerous is it?
Yes.
For us to have all our information on these cards that you're pushing us to?
Yeah. Well, I think it's there are dangers to putting information in the cloud, but there's also tremendous opportunity, and I think the opportunities outweigh the risks. And this is a debate that we've had. We had it with you a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the Internet of Things, is around cybersecurity and, you know, protection of our identities online, which is becoming increasingly important. I think, you know, this is something which already the government here in Rwanda is thinking about in terms of how do we protect people, how do we show people how to be safe on the internet. And sort of around the space of payments, it's the same thing. You know, the institutions have a role to play in keeping up with the technologies, keeping up with all the tricks, and you know, and people also have a lot to learn in terms of how to manage themselves in the cloud and online.
Absolutely, and that conversation can go on and on and on. Let's move over and talk a little bit about Tigo, which you lead in Rwanda, and the challenge of dealing with the big gorilla that, of course, is MTN inside the country. How do you guys approach competition with MTN? Is it on price? Is it on service? Is it on product? What do you do?
It's on execution. I think it's as simple as that. You know, we need to, more than anything else, you know, once we've taken a decision to go in a direction or to launch a product, we really need to make sure we do it well, and we need to make sure we do it faster than anyone else, and we need to make sure that it's relevant, and that's really been the story for us. We've been tremendously successful in growing our customer base, building a really powerful sales channel, and reaching 35% market share very, very quickly. I think the game is changing now, and I think the internet is becoming increasingly important, and that's why we've decided to reposition ourselves and start to talk a lot more about digital, start looking at that product offering, and, you know, all of that just comes down to execution at the end of the day. And if we continue to do it you know, consistently and well, you know, our consumers pay us back with their loyalty. Two
things: market share as well as strategy in terms of growing the business going forward. What are you guys targeting as your, how should I put it, as your desirable market share target? And then secondly, how are you going to get there?
Okay, so, you know, I think what we want to do is make sure that we have a solid, loyal base of consumers who are seeing value in being with Tigo. You know, at the end of the day, if we can achieve that with the customers that we have today, we'll be happy. But there's a lot of very ambitious people at Tigo, and so if you ask them, you'll probably find they'll say we want to be #1.
Okay.
Which is great. I think that in order to achieve that, in order to achieve a really meaningful and long-lasting relationship with our consumers, you know, the opportunity we see is in digital. We need to be offering the best internet experience for people who want to browse, but we also need to be offering the products and services and content that people are really interested in seeing when they go online. And I think that's really going to be the key over the next few years, and one of the reasons why I'm really excited about being in this role, because it's a time for telecom when you really need to decide who you want to be. You need to start thinking about what's the next envelope of opportunity, and and this is exactly what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, very tellingly, I hear you're not talking about voice at all. Is voice going to die at some stage?
No, voice is still going to be an important part of the business. I think it's something which is so fundamental to how people interact that it's going to be some time. I know that the story is that internet's going to take over. We'll have over-the-top services for communication.
Yeah.
But as much as that's the case, I think that we're still going to have to be offering a quality voice service to our customers.
What about the challenge that's posed by these free services that we see coming up with these new applications? So your WhatsApps, your Vibers, your Facebooks, you name it. I mean, everybody is coming in with a free offering of voice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new reality, right? And I think the important thing for us to recognize is that yes, at some point, it's possible that all communication will be running over the internet, and our GSM networks, will no longer be necessary for voice. I think that's still some time away, but between now and then, we need to start to ensure that we have the right business models to still be around and still have relevant relationships with our customers. And I think this is why I keep going back to the idea of digital and contents and services, because in a world where the internet is ubiquitous, if you're not playing on the internet seriously, then you're probably not really having a relationship with customers. Absolutely.
I still want to continue talking about what we're doing on the digital side, but in particular, I want to focus on data, but we do need to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to discuss that aspect, and also we're going to talk a little bit about what makes Mr. Maramba tick when he's outside of the office, when he takes off his jacket and is playing with his boys. Join us after the break. Welcome back here watching Captains of Industry with me, Godfrey Mutizwa. I'm chatting to Tongai Maramba, who is the General Manager of Tigo Rwanda. He's also the Chairman of R-Switch in Rwanda. But before that, let me just quickly get you a sense of where he's been. He has also previously worked as Head of Mobile Financial Services, and this was at Tigo Cash. And before that, he was Chief Commercial Officer, responsible for the core business of voice and data, as well as non-MFS VAS portfolio. This, of course, is at Tigo. And before that, he was in the consulting office of the government of Dubai, where he was a consultant and he helped startups. But in 2005 and 2006, was an advisor to head of operations at Ericsson. And that role, Tongai, took you to Mexico. I would never have imagined Zimbabweans landing up in Mexico, and let alone trying to make sense of Spanish.
Well, Zimbabweans get everywhere. I'm sure you'll find that, Godfrey. No, I was very fortunate. I had a role with a company in the UK, which took me traveling around the world. I did projects in Asia, in Africa, Latin America. I even spent some time in Russia. And one of those trips, I got an opportunity to engage with the teams in Mexico. And they were looking for someone to come in and bring some expertise and help to upskill some of their teams on some of the technologies that we'd deployed. So yes, I mean, I jumped at the opportunity. I've always been keen on new challenges, especially when it involves seeing the world, and moved out to Mexico initially for 6 months, but ended up being there for 2 years.
Wow.
Had a fantastic time, got to learn Spanish, and really discovered a lot about myself on that trip.
What was it like trying to mesh your business experience, having grown up in Zimbabwe, and at the same time now moving into this totally new geography, if you like, as well as perhaps what you saw when you went to Russia?
The thing that really surprised me is there's so many places where you find similarities in culture with home that you're able to pick out those commonalities and use them kind of as starting points to establish your relationships with your colleagues, wherever it may be. There are places which are quite different. I think my experience in Russia was very different from a lot of the experiences I had in Europe and Africa.
Yeah.
But all of it, of course, is additive, and it really improves the quality of your experience, and it improves your personality as well.
Has it helped you in terms of running the business of Tigo in Rwanda now?
Yes, it helps me in the sense that I'm comfortable in almost any situation. I feel like I've come through all kinds of different scenarios and situations and experiences, and so coming into the role in Tigo Rwanda to be the general manager was again another stretch, something again very different from what I was used to, with all kinds of challenges.
Yeah.
So the background of having been exposed to all these different types of people at different levels has really helped me to be effective in this role.
Absolutely. Another day you and I need to sit down and you can talk to me about your experience in Rwanda. My vice chairman here at ABN Group has got some very interesting stories to tell about what he was doing in Russia, but we'll save that for another day. Let's move back a little bit and talk about the issue of price, especially as it comes to data. What we have seen over the years in Africa is, of course, data, when it started out, it was very expensive. I mean, there were just a few companies that could afford it, and then we have seen it gradually now moving over to the consumer, like with all new technologies. In terms of pricing, would you say companies are getting it right, or there's still more for prices to go as far as data is concerned? I think most of us still complain a lot about the bills that we get on our phones.
Well, I think, with the question with data access is really about the infrastructure. So even to sell 1 megabyte of data, you need to build the infrastructure. And so if you only sell 1 megabyte of data, you can expect the price of that megabyte to be quite high. But as the consumption increases, the infrastructure doesn't necessarily need to increase that much. So that means that the cost of production is dropping with every megabyte that you produce. So essentially what you expect to see over time, for example, if you look at some of the GSMA numbers, they're projecting data consumption to increase, I think, tenfold over the next 5 years in the world, but in Africa to grow 20 times. And so with that volume of increase in data consumption, you should start to expect to see prices coming down even further.
Is that across Africa, or perhaps you're talking about Rwanda specifically?
So those numbers are for Southern Africa,
okay.
the 20-fold increase.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And the sort of time frames?
Well, this would be over 5 years. I mean, this is the projection for 2020. So
wow.
It's quite exciting to see, and it really shows you how important the internet is going to become over the years to come.
Okay. So let's leave the technology side of it, because clearly you are more comfortable on that side of it than I am. I'm scared about the future, because I'm scared someone is going to nick my password and get access to all my details. Let's talk a little bit about Tongai outside of the business world. Now, Rwanda, of course, I mean,
okay.
I struggle sometimes because I say Rwanda is a small place, but it's not a very small place, actually. I mean, we're talking to more than 10 million people, so it's not the smallest in that sense. But when you compare it to other jurisdictions that you have been, obviously it's a smaller place. What do you do in your spare time?
Well, spare time is family time for me. My wife and I moved here from Dubai almost 6 years ago, and we've really had a wonderful time here. The quality of our life is fantastic. We have 2 wonderful children, two little girls, who are both very happy here, and it's a great place to be raising them. So outside of work, I spend a lot of time with the kids. My wife is considerably smarter than I am, and therefore the kids are, which means that when I get home, I feel like everyone's moving at 2 or 3 times the speed of myself.
Are you just trying to make sure that...
But I do enjoy that.
Are you just trying to make sure that when you go home, you'll not be taken to task for suggesting otherwise?
Godfrey, you should meet my wife.
I will make an appointment to do so.
Yeah.
I'll make an appointment to do so. One of the things that business executives like yourselves struggle with is sharing that time between family and business. Is that something that you struggle with?
Yes. Yes, for sure. I mean, it's I wouldn't be honest with you if I told you it was easy. I think it's I have a job which is very demanding. It's very fulfilling, but it's also incredibly demanding. So it calls for a lot of hard work to be able to manage the balance, and to make sure that I can make time for the family.
Yeah.
I don't always get it right, and I'm continually learning how to improve it. But hopefully, as the experience accumulates, I'll get better at it.
Yeah. Is it an issue of perhaps deciding that from 8 to 5 it's work time, or does the office intrude into the home well until 10 p.m.?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a question of choice, right? So you need to make sure that you understand when you're in the office why you're doing every single activity you have in the day, because you just can't do everything. And you know, at some point you need to say, right, this particular thing can wait. It's not as important as my family. I'm going home.
Right.
And I think that's something that has been a big learning for me since I took the role as general manager.
Yeah. It's interesting for me because sometimes you hear people say, I can't simply make the time because the time is not available. And then someone rejoins that with something along the lines, yeah, Barack Obama has 24 hours in his day and you have 24 hours in your day. He's running, how many $1 trillion is the US economy again? 15, 16 $trillion? And you're running maybe $1 billion or something like that. It is choice, as you say. What about giving back in terms of the community? What do you do?
Well, you know, my big passion is as I say, is payments and development, and so I see really in the work that we do at Tigo, a lot of responsibility in terms of being able to give back to the community, be able to develop the country. As a company, Tigo is really focused on using digital to help improve the lives of children, and you know, we have a lot of initiatives around that. You know, I think that there's an opportunity for us to leverage, you know, the skills that we have in the company and the resources that we have to start to make some specific community contributions. Yeah.
Do you guys set yourselves targets in terms of what you give back to the community and the work that you do around the children that you're talking about?
Sorry, Godfrey, can you just say that again?
Yeah, I was just saying, do you set yourselves targets in terms of what you give back? In other words, in an annual year, sorry, in a year, would you say, for instance, we'll give back 2% or 3% of our revenue, or is it net profit? I don't know what you guys do.
You know, I haven't actually quantified the size of the contribution because it comes in so many different ways. You know, our teams are contributing their time, they're contributing their knowledge, and then of course we make contributions. I think we've invested something like 150 million Rwandan francs in the last 3 years in social entrepreneurs. So it's a big mix. It's a mixed bag of contributions that we make as a company.
Yeah, is that a struggle to work with social entrepreneurs? Because that's an interesting field, isn't it? I mean, you spoke about development earlier and the work that you do, and the fact that you are finding yourself gradually gravitating towards doing more social development type work.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think social entrepreneurs are an important lever for impact. I think when you're a company like ours and you want to have impact on many different levels in the country, you spend a lot of time thinking about how you can make contributions that are effective. And what we've realized is programs like the Reach for Change program that we have are very targeted, specifically at, you know, the segments of society that we want to help. And of course, social entrepreneurs are business people, so they're very focused on performance. They're focused on results, and we can really hold them accountable for the investments that we make in them.
Yeah. You have an opportunity, Tongai, to talk about that program that you just spoke about. You said Reach for Change. Explain it very quickly.
Yeah, so Reach for Change is a program actually that's being done across Tigo Africa. You know, we also have it here in Rwanda, and the idea for it is essentially it's like running an incubator to find entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs in the digital space who have great ideas for helping children improve their lives. You know, whether it's education, whether it's the quality of life at home, whether it's about health, you know, in whatever of those fields. And so we run this competition once a year, and we pick a couple of entrepreneurs who we then invest time and money in helping to grow their visions. And we've been doing this for 4 years, as I say, and we've seen, you know, wonderful impact in many different areas.
Absolutely. Tongai Maramba, thank you. General Manager, Tigo Rwanda. Thank you for joining us today.